From reluctant princess to history's longest reigning monarch, discover how Elizabeth II transformed from a girl who never expected to rule into the queen who guided Britain through 70 years of unprecedented change. This is the ultimate story of duty, dignity, and dedication that defined an entire era.
Narrative: Elizabeth II, the reluctant queen who defined ANEI in a grand nursery at 17, Bruton Street, Mayfair. A baby girl born third in line to the throne played contentedly with her toy horses, completely unaware that her uncle's scandalous love affair would soon catapult her family into the spotlight and place upon her tiny shoulders the weight of an empire that spanned a quarter of the globe. This wasn't just any aristocratic child enjoying the privileges of royal birth. This was Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor, who would spend the next 96 years navigating the collapse of empire, the transformation of society, and the evolution of monarchy itself, proving that duty, consistency, and quiet dignity could provide stability in a world of constant change. Born on April 21, 1926, during a period when the British Empire was at its territorial peak but already showing signs of the tensions that would eventually tear it apart, Elizabeth entered a world where her grandfather King George V ruled over 458 million subjects across 6 continents. Her birth into the House of Windsor, a dynasty that had only recently changed its name from the Germanic House of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha due to anti-German sentiment during World War I, immediately placed her within the complex web of European royal relationships that had shaped centuries of continental politics and warfare. Her father, Prince Albert, Duke of York, was the second son of King George V, a dutiful but stammering naval officer who had never expected to inherit the throne and was quietly preparing for a life of royal duties without the ultimate burden of kingship. Her mother, Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, was a Scottish aristocrat whose warmth and natural charm had already made her a popular member of the royal family, while her strong character would prove crucial in supporting her husband through the unexpected challenges that lay ahead. The early years of Elizabeth's life were spent in the comfortable certainty that she would likely marry well, perform charitable duties, and live the pleasant but relatively private life of a minor royal. Her education was conducted at home by private tutors, with emphasis on languages, history, and the social graces considered essential for a well-bred young lady of her generation. This sheltered upbringing, while limiting her exposure to ordinary life, provided her with the classical education and cultural refinement that would later serve her well in diplomatic and ceremonial situations. Her relationship with her younger sister Margaret, born in 1930, was characterized by the contrast between Elizabeth's serious, dutiful nature and Margaret's more rebellious and artistic temperament. This dynamic would play out throughout their lives, with Elizabeth consistently taking the role of responsible elder sister while Margaret often chafed against royal constraints and expectations. Their childhood games often involved Elizabeth playing the role of responsible authority figure while Margaret pushed boundaries and tested limits. The abdication crisis of 1936, triggered by King Edward VIII's determination to marry American divorcee Wallis Simpson, transformed Elizabeth's life overnight from that of a peripheral royal to the heir presumptive to the British throne. At just 10 years old, she witnessed the chaos and family anguish caused by her uncle's decision to choose personal happiness over royal duty, a lesson that would profoundly influence her own understanding of the sacrifices required by monarchy. Her father's reluctant accession to the throne as King George VI brought the family into the full glare of public attention while also revealing the personal cost of royal duty. George VI's severe stammer, his lack of preparation for kingship, and his genuine reluctance to assume the crown demonstrated to young Elizabeth that monarchy was not a privilege to be enjoyed but a burden to be shouldered for the benefit of the nation and Commonwealth. The coronation of her parents in 1937, where 11-year-old Elizabeth witnessed the ancient ceremonial that would one day be performed for her own crowning, provided her first understanding of the mystical and religious aspects of monarchy that elevated it beyond mere political leadership to something approaching sacred duty. The weight of centuries of tradition, the involvement of the church, and the solemnity of the oaths taken impressed upon her the seriousness of royal responsibility. World War II, which began when Elizabeth was 13, shaped her character and worldview in ways that would influence her entire reign. The decision by her parents to remain in London during the Blitz, sharing the dangers faced by ordinary subjects rather than fleeing to safety, taught her that royal privilege came with the obligation to share in national suffering and demonstrate personal courage when the country was under threat. Her own service during the war, joining the Auxiliary Territorial Service in 1945 at age 18, provided her with the only period of her life when she experienced something approaching normal military service. learning to drive and maintain military vehicles, working alongside other young women from different social backgrounds, and being treated, at least nominally, as an ordinary service member gave her insights into the lives of her future subjects that would prove invaluable throughout her reign. Her romance with Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark, which developed during the war years through correspondence and occasional meetings, represented both a genuine love match and a strategic alliance that would strengthen the monarchy's connections to European royal houses. Philip's naval career, his service in the Royal Navy during World War II, and his own displaced royal background created a partnership based on shared understanding of duty and service. Their wedding in 1947, coming just 2 years after the war's end, provided the British public with a moment of celebration and optimism during the austere post-war years of rationing and reconstruction. The ceremony at Westminster Abbey, broadcast on radio to millions around the world, demonstrated the monarchy's ability to provide pageantry and hope during difficult times while also establishing Elizabeth as a figure of international interest and affection. Her early married life, including periods living in Malta where Philip was stationed with the Royal Navy, provided her with the closest approximation to normal married life she would ever experience. These years, away from the constant scrutiny of the British press and the formal constraints of court life, allowed her to develop her relationship with Philip while also experiencing something of the ordinary social life of a naval officer's wife. The declining health of King George VI during the early 1950s gradually brought Elizabeth more prominently into public duties while also preparing her for the responsibilities she would soon inherit. Her tour of Kenya in early 1952, undertaken as her father's representative, demonstrated her growing confidence in ceremonial and diplomatic roles while also providing her with direct experience of the Commonwealth relationships that would become central to her reign. The death of King George VI on February 6, 1952, while Elizabeth was watching wildlife at a watering hole in Kenya, catapulted her into queenship at the age of just 25. The famous photograph of her learning of her father's death while sitting in a tree, observing elephants in their natural habitat, captured the moment when her relatively private life ended forever and her public role as constitutional monarch began. Her coronation on June 2, 1953, represented both the culmination of centuries of British royal tradition and the beginning of the television age's transformation of monarchy. The decision to allow the ceremony to be televised, despite opposition from traditionalists who felt it would diminish the mystery and dignity of the occasion, demonstrated Elizabeth's early understanding that the monarchy would need to adapt to new forms of media and public communication. The early years of her reign were marked by the challenge of defining a role for monarchy in an increasingly democratic and egalitarian society. The deference and automatic respect that previous generations had shown to royal authority could no longer be assumed, requiring Elizabeth to earn public affection and respect through consistent performance of her duties rather than simply expecting it as a birthright. Her decision to embark on extensive Commonwealth tours during the 1950s and 1960s demonstrated her commitment to maintaining the personal relationships that held together the voluntary association of nations that had replaced the British Empire. These exhausting journeys, often lasting months and covering dozens of countries, established her as a truly global figure while also reinforcing Britain's continuing influence through soft power and personal diplomacy. The Suez Crisis of 1956 presented one of the first major tests of her constitutional role, as she was required to remain publicly neutral while her government pursued a military policy that proved disastrously unpopular and ultimately unsuccessful. Her handling of this crisis, maintaining dignified silence while fulfilling her ceremonial duties, established the pattern of constitutional monarchy that would characterize her entire reign. The birth of her children, Charles in 1948, and in 1950, Andrew in 1960, and Edward in 1964, created the ongoing challenge of balancing her role as mother with her duties as monarch. The tension between private family life and public responsibility would prove to be one of the most difficult aspects of her reign, as royal children grew up under unprecedented media scrutiny while also being expected to serve the institution that had shaped their entire existence. The 1960s brought social and cultural changes that challenged traditional institutions, including the monarchy, while also providing opportunities for modernization and renewed relevance. The introduction of informal walkabouts during royal visits, the decision to allow television cameras greater access to royal ceremonies, and the gradual relaxation of court protocol demonstrated Elizabeth's understanding that the monarchy needed to evolve while maintaining its essential character. Her Silver Jubilee in 1977, celebrating 25 years on the throne, provided evidence of continuing public affection and support despite the social changes of the preceding decades. The nationwide celebrations, street parties, and genuine enthusiasm displayed by millions of subjects demonstrated that the monarchy retained emotional significance even in an increasingly secular and democratic society. The wedding of Prince Charles to Lady Diana Spencer in 1981 created a global media spectacle that demonstrated both the continuing fascination with royal ceremony and the challenges posed by modern celebrity culture. Diana's popularity and media appeal brought new attention to the royal family while also introducing elements of glamour, controversy, and personal drama that would complicate the monarchy's traditional role. The Falklands War of 1982 tested Elizabeth's role as head of the armed forces while also involving her personally, as her son Andrew served as a helicopter pilot in the conflict zone. Her public support for the military effort while privately worrying about her son's safety demonstrated the personal costs of royal duty while also reinforcing the monarchy's connections to military service and national defense at the 1990s, which Elizabeth herself described as her annus horribilis in 1992, brought unprecedented challenges to the monarchy through the breakdown of royal marriages, the devastating fire at Windsor Castle, and growing public criticism of royal finances and lifestyle. The divorces of Charles and Diana, Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, and Anne and Mark Phillips created tabloid sensations while raising questions about the monarchy's moral authority and relevance. The death of Diana, Princess of Wales, in 1997 created the most serious crisis of Elizabeth's reign, as public grief and anger at the royal family's initially restrained response threatened to undermine the monarchy's relationship with the British people. Elizabeth's decision to return from Balmoral to London, to speak directly to the nation on television, and to modify royal protocol to acknowledge Diana's unique status demonstrated her ability to adapt when fundamental change was necessary. The Golden Jubilee in 2002, marking 50 years on the throne, provided evidence of the monarchy's recovery from the Diana crisis while also demonstrating continued public affection for Elizabeth personally, even if some questioned the institution's long-term relevance. The celebrations, while not as spontaneous as those for the Silver Jubilee, nevertheless showed that the Queen had retained the respect and loyalty of most of her subjects. The new millennium brought fresh challenges as debates about republicanism, the role of the Commonwealth, and the succession intensified. Elizabeth's decision to begin paying income tax, to open Buckingham Palace to the public, and to reduce the number of working royals demonstrated ongoing efforts to modernize the institution while maintaining its essential functions. Her Diamond Jubilee in 2012, celebrating 60 years on the throne, coincided with the London Olympics and created a summer of national celebration that reinforced the monarchy's role in providing continuity and national identity. Her surprise appearance in a James Bond sketch for the Olympics opening ceremony showed her willingness to engage with popular culture while maintaining her dignity and mystique. The wedding of Prince William to Catherine Middleton in 2011, followed by the birth of their children, provided evidence of generational renewal and continuity while also demonstrating the monarchy's adaptation to contemporary expectations about marriage, career, and family life. Catherine's middle-class background and her gradual integration into royal duties showed how the institution could evolve while maintaining its traditions. Her Platinum Jubilee in 2022, marking an unprecedented 70 years on the throne, celebrated her record as the longest-serving British monarch while also acknowledging the physical frailty that was beginning to limit her public appearances. The nationwide celebrations demonstrated continuing affection for Elizabeth personally while also raising questions about the monarchy's future under different leadership. The controversies surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan's departure from royal duties, Prince Andrew's association with Jeffrey Epstein, and various other family scandals tested the monarchy's reputation during Elizabeth's final years. Her handling of these crises, maintaining public silence while allowing the institution to take necessary disciplinary action, demonstrated her understanding that the monarchy's survival required placing institutional interests above personal family relationships. Her death on September 8, 2022, at Balmoral Castle surrounded by family, marked the end of an era that had spanned from the aftermath of World War I through the digital age. Her peaceful death at age 96, after a reign of 70 years and 214 days, represented the conclusion of the longest and most successful monarchy in British history while also beginning the process of institutional transition to a new generation. Her state funeral, attended by world leaders from nearly every nation and watched by an estimated 4 billion people worldwide, demonstrated the global respect and affection she had earned through 7 decades of consistent service. The ceremony's combination of ancient tradition and contemporary accessibility showed how successfully she had modernized the monarchy while preserving its essential character. The legacy Elizabeth II left encompasses not just her role as constitutional monarch but her influence on the evolution of the Commonwealth, the modernization of royal institutions, and the demonstration that constitutional monarchy could remain relevant and respected in democratic societies. Her reign witnessed the transformation of the British Empire into the Commonwealth, the evolution of Britain from global superpower to important medium power, and the adaptation of ancient institutions to contemporary expectations. Her influence on the concept of public service, demonstrated through her unwavering commitment to duty regardless of personal cost, provided a model of leadership that emphasized consistency, dedication, and the subordination of personal interests to public responsibility. Her example influenced not just other constitutional monarchs but also elected leaders who recognized the power of dignity, reliability, and genuine concern for the welfare of one's people. The constitutional precedents established during her reign, particularly the conventions governing royal neutrality, the relationship between monarchy and elected government, and the role of the sovereign as head of the Commonwealth, will continue influencing British governance long after her death. Her scrupulous observance of constitutional limits while maximizing the monarchy's soft power influence created a template for successful constitutional monarchy in democratic societies. Today, Elizabeth II is remembered as the Queen who successfully guided the British monarchy through the most challenging period in its modern history, transforming it from an imperial institution into a modern constitutional monarchy while maintaining public support and international respect. Her story demonstrates that leadership in democratic societies requires not just the exercise of power but the wisdom to know when restraint and service matter more than authority and privilege. From the reluctant princess who never expected to reign to the monarch who defined an entire era through quiet dignity and unwavering service, Elizabeth II's journey proves that the most effective leadership often comes not from seeking power but from accepting responsibility and dedicating one's entire life to serving something greater than oneself.
Elizabeth II proved that true leadership means serving others before yourself. Through 7 decades of change, she showed that consistency and duty can provide stability in turbulent times. Subscribe for more royal history. Like if the Queen inspired you. Share your thoughts on her incredible legacy.